3 planets hanging out early in the morning, and early month unusual conjunction, and a meteor shower make this time of socially distancing ourselves for the month of April a great opportunity to get out at night. Welcome to Observing with Webb for April of 2020. Very special month, just for what we have to go through, but also because there's some really cool stuff going on in the sky. But anyway, welcome to Observing with Webb, where a high school astronomy teacher shows you what you're looking at, why it's so cool, and what you should check out later this month at night. So we're going to go through the events, starting with the moon. Then we'll talk about the conjunction of Venus and the Pleiades, a close encounter between the moon, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. Also, the LYRID meteor shower, and another close encounter between the moon and Venus. Then we'll talk about the planets that you can see, and also constellations that you can find out there as well. So strap on in and let's get going. Alright, so starting with the moon, the first quarter moon, which is when the right half is lit up, is on the 1st of April, and that is visible until about midnight. So it's going to be way up high in the sky, half lit and visible until it sets around midnight. Then it's going to get fuller and fuller until the 7th, which is when we have the full moon. So that's visible the entire night, and not a good time to check out those constellations, but still a good time to go out and check it out. In fact, looking in Pennsylvania, or at least my area for this week, the nights look okay. So then in mid-month is when we have the last quarter moon. That means it's not up there until midnight, and only the left half is lit up, and you can see that until the morning. And then on the 22nd is when we have the new moon. So the second half of the month is the best for looking at the night sky stuff. And we actually have a second first quarter moon this month. Just so happens that the first quarter moon, the first quarter moon is right on the 1st, so we have enough time to get through the lunar cycle. So the first quarter moon, second first quarter moon, is on the 30th, and that is visible until midnight again. So get on out there and check out the moon. But let's move on to some of the scheduled stuff. The 2nd to the 4th, so literally tonight, Friday, and Saturday, you've got a good look at Venus and the Pleiades. Okay, I'm going to call this a conjunction. They're close enough. Now, you won't see anything like this until 2028. What are we looking at here? Okay, so if you take a look up at the sky, what you do is basically look west after sunset. Okay, now as the sun is setting, even around 7:30, you might be able to catch Venus because it's super bright. But the other part that's in there is the Pleiades. Now you're going to have to wait for it to get a little bit darker, and you'll see that there's just this beautiful mini dipper of stars right there. Okay, now I'm going to close in on it a little bit. Now this simulation, I have the stars being disks. It's not going to look like that, but it's going to look even better than that. So on the 1st, it's right nearby. On the 2nd, Venus is a little bit closer. And then on the 3rd, Venus is right in the middle of, well, I guess you could call it the middle of the Pleiades. Now, what does this mean? So this is really cool because anybody can see this. Anybody. You don't need binoculars. You don't need a telescope. All you need to do is find bright Venus and then see the Pleiades around it. That's not to say that binoculars or a telescope won't be helpful, because as you can see, more stars start popping up if you actually have binoculars or a telescope. It just makes it a little bit better. Okay? But one of the cool things about this is that you see two very different objects in the same spot in the sky. And so basically what you're looking at, Venus is a planet. It's orbiting around the sun, and it's 4.5 billion years old. And it's about the size of a planet, about the size of the Earth. Whereas when you look at the cluster of stars, which is known as the Pleiades, you're looking at a cluster of stars about 10 light years wide. It takes light 10 years to get from one side to the other, and it's only 100 million years old. So much younger than Venus, actually. Now, yeah, so take a look at that. It's going to be up there the 3rd and the 4th. And then it just sort of drifts away. They're still in the same area, so, you know, get a look out there for that. If you have a telescope, or if you have a camera, see if you can get a nice picture of that as well. And send them my way. I'd love to interact with you guys a little bit more. But that is April 3rd, April 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. That is finding Venus right next to the Pleiades. Now, nothing really happens for about 2 weeks, okay? And now is when you want to get out in the morning. We're going to talk about a close encounter between the Moon, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. I'm going to go a little more detailed into the planets later. But let's go to the 14th. If you want to see the morning planets, you do have to get up early in the morning. In fact, I have that you want to get out there before, let's say, after 5 a.m., but before 6 a.m., daylight savings time. Okay, because otherwise it starts getting a little too bright. And what you're looking at from the 14th to the 17th is, well, look, there's this beautiful cluster of planets over in the southeast, right? You've got Mars over here, Saturn up here, Jupiter up here. I'll talk more about them later. But the moon right here, you've got a nice third quarter moon right there, right next to Jupiter. On the 15th, the moon is right below Saturn. Then on the 16th, it's right below Mars. And then on the 17th, it sort of spaces itself apart. And now it's a bit more of a crescent. So I know that I'm going to be getting up early that week to try to get some really good pictures of this. So, but again, get up early from the 14th to the 17th. The nice thing about that is if it's cloudy one of those days or 2 of those days or 3 of those days, you can still get at least one decent day out of it. Okay? All right, so now, as far as events go, that brings us to April 22nd. Now, if we go to April 22nd, there's not really much to show you in the night sky. However, I am going to face north because on the 22nd is the LYRID meteor shower. Okay? Now, as far as observing this shower, it doesn't get any better than this. And the reason is that we have a new moon. And it's starting to get a little bit warmer, so it's not so bad to go out there. Now, the only thing is that this is a minor shower. You only get about 10 to 20 meteors per hour, which is not a lot, but hey, that's one every 3 to 6 minutes, so not bad. And hey, some of us have a little more time right now to just get out there and take a look at it. So, anyway, basically, all you really want to do is, in general, look north. You want to look at the entire sky, okay? But in general, looking north is probably your best bet, okay? And, excuse me, the shower will be the greatest on the 22nd, but you might also see some on the 21st and 22nd as well. It technically peaks in the morning hours, so getting up in the morning is probably an even better bet. However, just get out there. It doesn't really matter too much. You're not going to be missing out on too much depending on what time you go out. However, the LYRID meteor shower appears to be coming from Lyra. In fact, in the morning, Lyra is highest in the sky. And that's when you're going to see the most because the source is right in the middle of the sky instead of having it tucked down by the horizon. And then you only see about half of the meteors. Here you see all of them. So anyway, 22nd, LYRID meteor shower. I'm going to say, in general, find a dark location. Don't look at your phone. Okay, your eyes have to dark adapt. Your pupils have to get dilated so that you can see more of the faint meteors. And honestly, take a break from the screens. I've noticed that just Putting my phone somewhere else and just going outside and looking outside has been amazingly good for my mental health. So just go out there and look at the stars for a bit. Bring someone to talk to, and unless you're annoyed by the people you're quarantined with, so whatever. Anyway. Also, make sure you check the weather before you go out. I usually say to check to see if your local astronomy club is holding an event, but I really hope they're not. So, I don't know. Maybe there's a virtual thing. I don't know. Just do what you can. Okay? The last cool thing about this is, every meteor that you look at, what you're really looking at is a piece of dust that's left over from a comet when it came into the solar system. And it sort of left this debris trail behind. And we are crashing into that debris trail at about 100,000 miles per hour. That's fast. And so what happens is the atmosphere, basically it's the same as having that dust coming at us at 100,000 miles. So what happens is that dust crushes the atmosphere that it goes into, crushes it and ionizes it and basically lights it on fire. And that's what you're actually seeing. And sometimes that heat and such actually breaks up the meteor as well. So anyway, good luck. April 22nd, LYRID meteor shower. Now the very last event for the month is going to be April 26th. Okay, and April 26th, it's not a morning. This will be an evening. So I'm going to go to sunset. Sunset is 7:54, and what you will see is Venus and the moon looking gorgeous up there. Okay, now the 26th is the day when they are closest together. Okay, they'll look like that in the night sky. Nice, beautiful crescent. However, as you know, this also happens to be nearby the day before and the day after. So they're both up there. This is a great time for Venus and the moon, this very last week of April. So go out there last week of April and check that out. All right, let's go into detail about the planets. All right, so let's start off with the obvious one. We've kind of talked about this a bit, but Venus. This is a really good month for Venus. We just passed maximum Venus, the highest height Venus would get. That was last month, but we still have 2 good months left of this planet. So just watch the sunset and look west. That's really all you have to do. And now the cool part is that if you have binoculars or a telescope, okay, you will notice a change in Venus throughout the month. If we take a look on April 1st, you notice that it's a half Venus phase. But what's happening is Venus is actually coming around. It's orbiting faster than the Earth, and it's kind of coming in between us and the sun. And so we see different portions of it. Now what happens throughout the month is Venus gets, watch this, bigger, and it's more of a crescent. The crescent might be tough to see on this simulation, but there you go. It's going to get bigger and more crescent, which is just absolutely really cool. If you know what size Jupiter is in your binoculars or telescope, this is about the size of Jupiter, in the same angular size of Jupiter. Okay, so that is Venus. Again, we have until about June to see it looking nice up there. Now, throughout the night, we don't really have anything going on. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go back to April 1st, and let's go to the morning. So here's what we got. We've got Mars, Saturn, and Jupiter looking really nice up there. Okay, so let's see. We're looking about southeast. Now, you want to get out, I say well before sunrise, half an hour to an hour before sunrise. And sunrise in the beginning of the month is 6:47. At the end of the month, it's 6 in the morning. So you kind of want to get out there in the 5 o'clock hour. Okay, sorry. But basically what you're looking for is the brightest spot up there is going to be Jupiter, right? That's going to be the brightest thing up there. So use that as your guidepost. And of course, if you have a telescope, cool thing about Jupiter is you can see the Galilean moons around it, and maybe the cloud bands. Now, the other part is that Saturn and Mars are going to be about the same brightness, but they're sort of separated here. Now, March 30th or 31st was when these were closest, but they're still pretty close. And what's going to happen throughout the month, you'll notice as the days go by, Mars leaves Saturn and Jupiter, and Saturn and Jupiter kind of spread themselves out. Well, actually, they kind of stayed pretty close to each other. But by April 30th, Saturn and Jupiter are still kind of close together, but Mars is far over here in Capricorn. So, but still in the morning sky, around 5:30, you can still see them at the end of the month. In fact, let's go a little forward. Looks like about 5:30 is when the sun starts to, put a little glow in the atmosphere. So, but yeah, there's Saturn, Jupiter, and Mars for the month of April. Okie dokie. So if you're going outside, let's say about 8 p.m., that's about when it gets dark enough to see the constellations now. Really, you're going to be looking at two things. Number one, Leo is almost right at the top there. You see the backward question mark and the right triangle to the left of that question mark. But then if you want to see any winter constellations, this is pretty much your last month. Orion is over here in the west with Taurus and the Pleiades and Venus for the first bit. Auriga, Gemini. So that get out there now because they're not going to be there much longer. So Leo and the winter constellations. And then if you go, let's say you go to bed around 11. Leo's still going to be very high up in the sky. But also what's up there is the Big Dipper. So if you look and you find Leo, turn around, okay, and you should be able to see the Big Dipper, actually upside down from your perspective. But you see those 7 very bright stars that make that shape. Now, if you turn a little bit to your right and keep the Big Dipper in your sights, you can follow that arc to Arcturus, which is the brightest star in Bootes, or Bootes, the shepherd, or it's really a kite. And then if you keep following that line, you speed on to Spica, which is the brightest star in Virgo. Okay? Now, I usually do before work. Let's just say you get up early, because not too many people going to work right now. Let's say you get up early. Let's say, let's just say 5 a.m. And you're looking straight up. Now you start seeing some of the summer constellations that are coming. You've got Hercules right here, Lyra, Cygnus. But let's focus on Hercules. If you look at the keystone, there it is. And so here's the keystone of Hercules. And the M13 Hercules cluster is right there. Just an absolutely gorgeous cluster of stars. Now, if you don't have binoculars, you might just catch it as a faint little fuzzy. But given how high in the sky it is right now, you should be able to catch that fuzziness. But if not, binoculars or a telescope will bring that out. So anyway, that is it for the Corona version, the self-isolation, social distancing, whatever, version of Observing with Webb. So please feel free to contact me with questions. Put them in the comments, whatever. Share this. Use it as something to do with your kids at night. I'm here to help everybody out, and I'll be making some new stuff for my students as well. So keep tuned, stay tuned for that sort of thing. And don't forget that this podcast is on. I do this as a podcast on Podbean, Stitcher, and iTunes. And I also have my Twitter is at Mr. Webb PV, as well as my Instagram, and the planetarium, the Pequea Valley Planetarium, is at PV Planetarium on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. So I'm posting stuff, astronomy stuff there as well. So anyway, with that, I'd like to wish you a very clear, safe, dark skies for the month of April.